China attacks U.S. oil tanker and pays a heavy price.
It started as a single spark in the South China Sea. One radar ping that should never have been there. A U.S. tanker, the Harlington Star, had been navigating international waters, hauling $42 billion worth of liquefied natural gas bound for Singapore. Calm seas. Routine route. Then, without warning, a hypersonic missile screamed in from the horizon. It hit midship, slicing through the hull like a knife through foil. The explosion turned night into day, fireball rising high enough to be seen from coastal villages hundreds of miles away. The blast lit up the sky, and the world's balance of power flipped overnight. China thought it had pulled off a message strike. No American soldiers killed, just a warning shot meant to showcase dominance. But they had no idea what that hit would cost them. An entire island, wiped clean in half an hour. The countdown began the moment the missile's heat signature was detected. The Pentagon didn't need confirmation. The retaliation protocols were already automated, mapped, and rehearsed down to the second. At 0:16 hours, while Beijing celebrated its precision strike, the U.S. Navy quietly activated Operation Tidebreaker. 2 Virginia-class submarines lurking in deep water rose to periscope depth, aligning their launch tubes with a rocky speck of land that had become China's forward listening post, an island fortress packed with radar systems, missile batteries, and over 1,000 personnel. To the world, it was known as Yongxing. To the U.S. military, it was simply Target Echo. The command was transmitted in encrypted bursts: confirm impact, retaliate limited, non-nuclear response authorized. 6 minutes later, the ocean itself seemed to exhale. The first wave wasn't missiles, it was silence. Electronic warfare drones cut off the island's radar feed, blinding every defense system at once. Communications went dark, leaving commanders shouting into dead radios. Then came the second wave. From hundreds of miles away, long-range hypersonic projectiles were launched, not to flatten cities, but to carve precision. The missiles struck in rhythmic bursts, each one slamming into weapons bunkers, power grids, and hangars. The explosions came so fast that the human ear couldn't separate them. It sounded like one endless roar. By minute 9, Yongxing Island was unrecognizable. The concrete docks that once hosted Chinese patrol ships had been obliterated. Fuel tanks ignited like candles on a black sea. Surveillance towers crumbled, their twisted frames folding into the sand. Every surface-to-air battery gone. Every radar dish shattered. The sky over the island glowed red as flames reached hundreds of meters high, reflecting off the waves like molten glass. On the Chinese mainland, panic erupted in command centers. Officers scrambled to verify what had happened. But with the island's sensors blinded, they had no live feed, just static. In Beijing, military analysts argued whether to escalate or deny. The political leadership hesitated, knowing one wrong move could trigger a global inferno. That hesitation cost them the island's last line of defense. At minute 14, the final strike arrived. 2 stealth bombers, invisible to radar, swept in from the Philippine Sea, each releasing a payload of precision bunker busters. They weren't designed to kill soldiers. They were designed to bury an entire military base under its own debris. The impact folded the command center into the earth. Seismic sensors registered it as an earthquake. By minute 16, the battle was over. The island was gone. Satellite photos taken moments later showed nothing but smoke and boiling water where the runway used to be. A black plume stretched for miles, curling upward like a ghost of what had been one of China's proudest military outposts. Not a single signal came from the site. Not one radar ping. Yongxing had vanished from the map. The Pentagon released nothing. No statement, no admission, no gloating. But ships in the region received a coded transmission, one that American sailors would later confirm contained a single phrase: justice exacted. Stand down. Within hours, the U.S. 7th Fleet repositioned into a defensive formation, daring Beijing to take another shot. Beijing, meanwhile, went into lockdown. State media called the tanker explosion an unfortunate maritime accident. They avoided even mentioning the island. Yet in coastal towns along Hainan, fishermen spoke of seeing the night sky turn into fire. Satellite firms in Japan and South Korea leaked images confirming what everyone already knew but dared not say aloud. China had lost a fortress, a fleet's eye, and perhaps its illusion of control over the South China Sea. In Washington, the message was clear and quiet. The U.S. wouldn't tolerate demonstration strikes, no matter how symbolic. The tanker's cargo alone had represented billions in economic value, and the attack was treated as an assault on global stability, not just American commerce. Every allied nation with ships in those waters suddenly hardened its stance. Japan raised alert levels. The Philippines granted new U.S. access to bases. Australia moved reconnaissance aircraft north. Overnight, China's show of strength had unified everyone against it. Within military circles, analysts called it the 30-minute war. No troops landed, no ground was taken. Yet the geopolitical landscape shifted more than any full-scale battle could have achieved. China's own commanders were left asking how it happened so fast. How did their billion-dollar defense grid vanish in minutes? How could the world's most fortified island go dark before anyone could even issue a counterorder? The answer lay in a decade of quiet preparation. The U.S. had built a system of layered contingency plans across the Indo-Pacific, networked responses triggered automatically by defined threat levels. When China's missile hit the tanker, it crossed a red line that required no congressional debate, no military meeting. The machinery of deterrence simply activated. Submarines, aircraft, and drones moved in perfect coordination, guided by pre-mapped targeting data that had been updated in real time for years. It wasn't a spontaneous counterattack, it was choreography. Inside the island's ruins, the aftermath was catastrophic. Entire hangars collapsed inward. Anti-ship missiles were reduced to twisted skeletons. The once proud flagpole at the center of the base was found bent at a perfect angle, melted halfway down. Radiation sensors on nearby reefs detected only chemical residue. No nukes, no long-term fallout, just the ash of precision warfare. In 30 minutes, China's strategic claim over that stretch of sea had evaporated. The silence that followed was almost surreal. No missiles fired back, no retaliatory strikes, just quiet, uneasy air. Beijing chose denial over escalation. They released vague footage of other islands continuing routine operations, trying to project control. But commercial satellite companies quickly caught the truth. The site was empty, flattened, erased. For days, Chinese social media burned with rumors. Some said the island was evacuated in time. Others whispered that it had been taken underwater by classified U.S. weapons. The government censored both. What couldn't be censored, though, was the sudden redeployment of naval units away from exposed outposts. Fear had done what diplomacy couldn't, forced China to retreat. In global markets, oil prices spiked. Shipping insurers froze all routes near the South China Sea. Investors called it the most expensive 30 minutes in modern history. The strike had cost Beijing far more than the $42 billion it destroyed. It cost trust from allies, from traders, and even from its own commanders. Weeks later, as calm returned, divers exploring the wreckage of Yongxing found something strange. Fragments of shattered computers, black boxes full of corrupted data. The base's central control systems had been hacked moments before the first missile hit. They had gone blind not because of bombs, but because of code. The final proof that in modern war, data dies before soldiers do. The story ended the way modern conflicts often do, not with flags raised or treaties signed, but with silence, smoke, and the uneasy knowledge that everything can change in less than half an hour. China had struck first, hoping for fear. What it got instead was a lesson burned into the sea. Power means nothing if your enemy can make your entire island disappear before breakfast.